books, The Snow Geese and the Music Room. But really, I have a passion for education, both as a teacher and with this organisation, First Story, that I helped set up about 5 years ago now. First Story promotes writing in secondary schools. We focus on challenging secondary schools. That's where schools in which more than 50% of the pupils are considered deprived according to ADAPTE, the Income Deprivation Affecting Children Index. When I started writing books, I never thought I'd be using acronyms like that in the evenings. We promote writing. We arrange for writers, poets, novelists to work as writers in residence in schools. It started off with me going out to a school in Hounslow, visiting every afternoon and running a writing group with about a dozen teenagers. And it's grown and grown, and now we have writers in residence in 32 schools in London and Oxford and Nottingham. The writers go in every week. They do writing groups for up to 20 students. We help these students work towards publishing an anthology of their stories and poems. Those anthologies then live in the school for years afterwards and are a teaching resource for teachers. We work with teachers to inspire them to boost their confidence as writers so that they can pass on a love of writing to their students. It's not just that writing and that this kind of work helps literacy. It does have a huge impact on literacy, but it has an incredibly powerful dividend in self-esteem and self-confidence. Philip Pullman puts it beautifully when he says that writing, real writing, can liberate and strengthen young people's sense of themselves as almost nothing else can. So we moved from one school in Hounslow now to these 32 schools across London and the Midlands. And that means that from those initial 12 students that I work with at Cranbrook Community College, now something like 1,000 teenagers have been part of the scheme and over 200 teachers. And we've published about 70 anthologies of student writing. And then we came to the funding network. That's the sort of context that I came to talk to all of you last year, and you were incredibly generous. I want to say just a huge thank you. You gave us just over £15,000. But actually, it's not just the money I want to say thank you for. The money was incredibly important to us. But also, actually, another thing was just meeting all of you. One of you gave us incredibly valuable advice in terms of fundraising. Another Tiffin member adopted us as their business's charity. Many of you offered volunteer time. So I do think that the relationship with the funding network has been much more than just a handover of a cheque, nice as that was. £15,000. Well, what's it done? That money enabled us to run 2 of these projects in 2 schools. We sent a poet called Kate Clancy to be writer-in-residence at Oxford Spires Academy. Her group of young people wrote this book together, Journeys, a book of incredibly touching stories and poems. And we sent the screenwriter Graham Lester-Joyce to be writer-in-residence at Nottingham University Samworth Academy in Nottingham. And they wrote this book, Undiscovered Voices. So in a way, each of those grants, or each of those projects, helped the teachers that were sitting there writing with the writer, the students sitting there writing, the writers who were getting a fellowship, so having their work supported as well. But really, I want to just give you one quick example of what you've made possible, because these books wouldn't exist without that particular grant. I'm particularly moved by the group in Oxford, at Oxford Spires Academy. There was a girl in that group called Asfar Ali, who's 17. She came to Britain about 2 years ago from Somali background. And one of the poems that she has in this book has just been published in New Statesman last week. That wouldn't have happened without your grant. What was especially moving about that group too is that early on there was a girl in the group called Lydia, and she stopped coming to the group. She died very tragically when she was 15 during the last school year. And they dedicated this book to Lydia. And this story called Untitled, I think, I hope will, well, I feel incredibly moved by it, and it moved that this particular conversation we all had together made this possible. Untitled for Lydia by Esme Partridge. Hello, my name is Esme. I am nearly 15 years old. I live in Oxford. Last term, all the things in me vanished. First, my best friend, who always carried a saucepan by her side, ran away. She took the bus to Birmingham and told us via email that she was staying put. I ignored it and ignored it until a girl with a Hello Kitty backpack took her seat in form. Then I stayed behind after the bell and cried and cried. Secondly, my violin teacher, the man with paper strings and a beer belly, was replaced by a robot that only speaks French. I wrote a letter to my violin teacher asking him to come back, but the robot shredded it and hoovered up the pieces. I don't speak French. Thirdly, Lydia left me alone. Right in the middle of assembly, she flew away and thought that some photos and trapped wind would be enough. Now there is a little hole right in the middle of my ribcage, and if you position me in the right place, the sun glints all the way through my spine to the other side. Lastly, the potatoes. My granny won't let the potatoes in her orchard rot to pieces, but she won't cook them either. There is a pile of potatoes on her draining board growing. I told her that she may as well give up properly and leave them to turn green in the ground. She said that she'll be gone before the ones on the draining board sprout. I didn't say anything to that. And through all this, I got dandruff. When I worry I don't get grey hair, I get dandruff. I didn't tell anyone, not even Aisha, but I think Daddy guessed. I started using his dandruff shampoo to get rid of the evidence, and I use a lot of shampoo. And the worst part is that when there's a hole in your rib cage, you can't write anymore. And when there's a hole in your rib cage, writing is the thing you need most. That's just one of the many, many stories and poems that your grant made possible. 32 schools now. It's so exciting to hear these voices coming out of young people all around the country. And I'm really incredibly grateful. We all are at First Story for the support you've given. And thank you so much. And come and look at these afterwards.